Well, it was a typical small town. It was a little less than 10,000 lived in Las Vegas. I think there's about 16,000 in the county, including Henderson and Boulder City. And you knew everybody in town. There weren't that many. The business community was downtown then.
Just before Bill Boyd's 10th birthday, the Boyd family, Mary, Sam, and young Bill, made the move from Los Angeles, California to Las Vegas. The year was 1941.
Everything wasn't paved in Las Vegas, and we lived in North Las Vegas during a good part of that time, and I know to get to our house there, you had to go on a dirt road.
Bill completed his schooling at 5th Street Elementary and Las Vegas High School. His father became a dealer, and Bill did his part to help the family, selling newspapers downtown.
But they used to shoot a gun off, so everybody got an even start. And we would all literally run to try and get to the Fremont Street first so we could start to sell our newspapers.
Bill's family knew the importance of an education and encouraged him to get a degree.
In fact, they used to say to me, Billy, you don't want to be a dealer like your dad, so get an education.
UNLV didn't exist at the time, so Bill enrolled at UNR, got a bachelor's degree in political science, and went on to law school at the University of Utah.
I made up my mind to go to law school and actually practiced for 15 years in Las Vegas.
But the lure of the gaming industry would eventually bring that law career to an end.
Well, my dad was dealing, and he worked his way up in the business, and he was a couple of years in World War II, but then when he came back, he started to get promoted and bought his first interest in the Sahara Hotel in 1952.
After a few years at the Sahara, Sam Boyd and his partners decided to buy a piece of property downtown. They built a casino called the Mint in the same area where the Horseshoe is today.
But he became the general manager at the Mint, where he was for 10 years. And in the meantime, I started practicing, and my first investment in the gaming business was at the El Dorado Casino in Henderson.
Bill represented the man who wanted to start the El Dorado, but the client couldn't pay his bill in cash, so he offered stock instead.
So we each got a 5% interest in the El Dorado for representing the El Dorado. And I borrowed some money and bought a larger interest. And I asked my dad if he would like to come in, and he said yes.
And it snowballed from there. In 1971, Bill and Sam Boyd invested in the Union Plaza downtown. They decided to sell their stock after 3 years and invest elsewhere.
We owned a piece of property at First and Ogden that we had bought a few years earlier. And so we said, let's go to First and Ogden and build.
It would become Boyd Gaming's first hotel casino, and Bill was forced to make a life-changing decision.
Well, that's when I did. I gave up my practice. My dad said to me, he was 65 when we opened the California, and he said, you know, I'm 65 now, you probably ought to think about getting in this business full-time.
The first year was tough at the California. Sam and Bill knew they needed a niche market. They decided to target Hawaiians.
We had lived in Hawaii before we moved to Las Vegas, and my dad was involved in gaming in Hawaii. It wasn't legal there, but they had a lot of gaming. And so he said, we're going to make this the Hawaiians' home away from home. And that's what we did.
It's a concept that's still in place today. But it wasn't the only concept that made the California a success. The Boyds had a secret to getting their employees to work harder than most. Make everyone a stockholder.
My dad had gotten that idea from the Sahara, where he had that 1% interest. And he said, boy, when you own a piece of the place, you become a 24-hour worker. So we had every shift boss, the food manager, the bar manager, the keno manager, the controller. Everybody had an interest.
The Boyd's interest in Las Vegas continued to grow as well. Bill Boyd looked beyond the Strip for a well-hidden opportunity on Boulder Highway. The land was halfway between his first investment, the El Dorado, and the California.
When we announced that we were doing that, our friends and contemporaries, many of them, called and said, are you crazy? I mean, you're going to lose everything that you've got. The California and El Dorado, you can't possibly get any business out there. It's out in the middle of nowhere. And it was, at that time, it was not close in at all. And I said, well, we think that it's got some real potential.
In 1979, Sam's Town opened. It was one of the first real locals casinos. They've expanded 7 times since then, and Boyd Gaming built a reputation as a stand-up company. So much so that in 1983, the Gaming Control Board turned to Bill Boyd to run the Stardust, a property about to lose its license because of shady management and mafia influence. In 48 hours, Bill Boyd put a team together to take over operations at the property, saving some 2,000 jobs in the process. Eventually, the owners saw the writing on the wall and asked the Boyds if they'd like to buy the Stardust. The Fremont Hotel downtown was also part of that deal.
I often thought that sometimes you do a good deed and it turns out to be profitable for you. And so I think that was really one of the turning points in the company.
It wasn't the only good deed Bill Boyd has done for this community. He had to go out of state for law school, but didn't want to see others have to do the same thing. Boyd provided the initial $5 million for the creation of the William S. Boyd School of Law at UNLV.
It's great. It's a great feeling. It's a great feeling to have it, and I'm very proud of the success that the school has had. I think for the future of our country, of our state, our community, I think we need to nothing more important than knowledge, and so I think education is the key to it all.
Giving back was a lesson Bill learned from his parents. Boyd Gaming also helped UNLV fix its Silver Bowl Stadium, where the Rebels play their football games. It's now called Sam Boyd.
Well, I think it's important that we make our community a better place to live for everyone. And that's the philosophy that we have always had.
Bill also credits his father for his impeccable work ethic.
I learned from my dad, number one, to be successful, you had to work hard, and he didn't know what a day off was. In fact, I remember one time, very seriously, we went to a half a day on Saturday, instead of a full day, working a full day. And he said, what do people do with all that free time?
Bill Boyd doesn't have much free time, but he does make time for family. He and his better half, Judy, have been together for 20 years. Your family is very much a part of your business.
Yes, all 3 of my children are involved in the business.
Daughter Marianne is vice chairman of the board, son Willie is the vice president of the board, and son Sam is a casino host at Samstown. Despite the current size of Boyd Gaming, Bill Boyd makes sure it's still run like a family business.
We try and do things to make our customers feel at ease, and we've always felt that if you treat your employees with dignity and respect, that they will treat the customers the same way. And I think that's really worked for us.
Bill Boyd sees a lot more growth to come in Las Vegas. Next up for him, a major rebirth of the Stardust.
We have 63 acres of the Stardust that we own, so we have the only other large parcel on the Strip. So we're having a master plan done on that now.
No signs of slowing down for the 75-year-old, who's always looking for what's next.
I've always been a risk taker. My father was a risk taker, and we just, I think we had confidence that we could be successful. We didn't know how long it might take, but I think we had that ultimate feeling that we would make it work out.